It wasn't the lad's place to provide wood. He took his fire, he took his wood, he took his knife. When God calls us to do something, we have to set our own stage. Amen. Somebody asked me recently, they said, Sister Rolle, I really feel as though as God is calling me to preach, but nobody's calling me and asking me to do anything. What should I be doing now? I said, what you should be doing now is studying to show yourself approved, a workman that need not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Because if God has called you to preach or do whatever in the word or to the fivefold ministry, he don't call you to sit down. So if you do your part, the doors are going to be open. The same thing happened in my pastor, Bishop Campbell, when I first began to understand my call. He said, you study and you consecrate. He said, before you know it, you'll have so many engagements, you will not possibly be able to take all of them. And if there's anybody in the house today, I decree and I declare that if God has called you to preach or to teach or to minister, you begin to study to show yourself approved unto God. Amen. Unto God. Amen. And you begin to consecrate yourself. And I promise you that the doors will begin to fly open. So you set your own stage. Amen. We'll have 3 more. The next one is heavy duty. The next test is sacrifice. Be prepared in this walk with God in pursuit of being great for God to sacrifice something that you love. Not something that you don't care about. Not something that doesn't mean much to you. Because if it doesn't mean anything to you, it doesn't mean anything to God. Yeah. The Bible said God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth should not perish, but have everlasting life. And as we go through this journey called life, there will be times of great sacrifice. Now God asked Abraham to give his son, but I want to let you know that God's not requiring anybody to give their son for the world because someone's already done it. Amen. Jesus did that, so ladies, we don't have to worry about it. Well, I can't speak for you. I have 3 sons and 2 grandsons, and I'm just being honest. If the Lord said to me today, go take your son on a mountain and slay him, I think God and I would have to have some dialect. I'll just say it in a nice way. Abraham didn't have any dialect, but I think we would probably have some dialect, and I would do the best I could. But that's not an easy sacrifice. But I want to say this. There are sacrifices that good parents make. Any parent in here, you really needed to get yourself some new shoes, but you couldn't. Why? Because kids need something. Is there ever someone who wanted to go to school or wanted to take some classes? And the college books are very, very expensive, as you know. But then your child was in college. So there, again, we had to kind of put our stuff on hold. There are sacrifices in this journey that we have to make. But can I tell you all what I've learned? I've learned after making so many sacrifices that there are a lot of things that this world makes us feel we have to have, and we find out we don't. We find out that we really don't need all those things that we say. And so that was a test that Abraham passed, because he lifted his sword and he really was going to slay his son. Amen. Which brings us to the next test. There's only 2 more. And the next test is switch. Switch. Switching is the ability to transition in the middle of the journey. Amen. Or in the middle of the test. You heard God and you know you heard God. But somehow in the middle of your pursuing your dream, the Lord brings a transition. And again, He's not being mean, but there are going to be times in our lives when things change. Everybody's not flexible. And there are sometimes things change, and you need to know how to make a good decision in the midst of the transition. He's not looking for tradition. He's looking for transition.
Right.
I believe it's Romans 12:2 that says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you might prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And so we have to learn sometime how to transition right in the middle of your journey. Because if you're depending only on the way it used to be, or you're reading a 5-year memo, let me tell you this. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always be who you've always been.
Amen.
And so God is looking for growth. God is looking for transition. And switching is exactly what happened with Abraham when he took the switch test. He lifted up his knife, and when he was about to slay his son, a switch came. And the angel said, don't hurt him. We're changing. We're switching. We're transitioning to something different. And he did not allow him to hurt his son, but just used him as a figure to represent the Lamb of God. There's one of my favorite sayings is this: if nothing changes, nothing changes. You get it? If nothing changes, nothing changes. And in this 21st century, it's time for positive change for all of us on a lot of levels. And last but not least, you're going to have this text: substitute. All of us have experienced some things. All of us have lost things. Many of us feel as though, and when I say us, I mean believers, believers in the world, have sometimes felt like life has dealt to us an unfair blow. But I'm reminded of the fact that when Abraham lifted up his knife and the angel said, don't touch him, there's been a switch. Abraham looked, and there was a what? A ram. And the ram was caught in the thicket. May I step way out there and just say, even though it is figurative, but I believe that it's spiritual as well, that I believe that every one of us right now have situations in our lives that we wish somebody else could take our place. Amen. That we wish there was some kind of substitute. That there was some kind of way to do it differently. There was some kind of way to do it another way. Yes. I got good news for you today. There is a ram for each and every one of us that God has somewhere stuck in a thicket. And when the time is right, and when He's ready, and when He feels as though we have passed the test, He's going to release the ram as a substitute for us to fulfill our destiny and to fulfill our purpose. The song says, I'm not an enemy of God. The song said, I'm a friend of God. He knows my name. He knows where I live. He can read my heart. He knows when we have done the right thing, and He knows when we have done the wrong thing. heart is right with God, you don't have to worry. You don't have to stay up all night because God never slumbers and God never sleeps. So if God is going to stay up all night, I don't have to stay up all night. I can rejoice in the Lord. Somebody said today, rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say rejoice. Because the word of God said, no weapon formed against us, it shall prosper. When you do right by God, God will do right by you. And God will provide, and He's already provided. Your lamb, your substitute is in something, somewhere, waiting for orders from God. And after Abraham passed, you see, he passed every one of those steps. Let me tell you how great he became. He became so great that his name is listed in that famous chapter, Hebrews 11, with all of the other faithful heroes. And not only that, he prayed for one child, but God told him, He said, you're faithful, I'm going to give you so many kids. He said, it's going to be like the sand of the sea. And guess what? If you're here today and you are saved, you are an heir of Abraham. We have been adopted into his spiritual family. And everybody, as long as this world remains, that's been saved and accept the work of Christ, Abraham's blessings are yours. Abraham's blessings are mine. And that's how God made him great. And it was not for him to get puffed up, but it was for him to know that he shared in a great part of working in the kingdom of God. And so as we do these things, and there are many more, but if we do these things and pass these tests, God will come through for us, just like he did Abraham. All we have to do is do the right thing by God. And he will honor us, he will bless us, he will keep us, and we don't have to fear anyone or anything. Because the greatest God that exists is the God we serve. And if you call on Jesus, he will answer prayer. May God bless you today. And may God keep you today. I pray that your hearts have been encouraged. And that your mind has been stirred up. Because sometimes our mind has to be stirred up. But if we do the things to pass these tests of the things that I've heard, God will be there for us. And we'll become great. Even greater, because the fathers are already great. But you'll become greater fathers, greater mothers, greater servants, and greater leaders. May God bless you, and may God keep you, is my sincere prayer. Amen.